On this edition of Southern Newsweek, a student tragically dies at an out-of-control party. A Whanganui-based artist has left his mark after visiting Dunedin. And the West Coast has had a solid whitebait season, but not everybody's happy. Kia ora, good evening, I'm Melissa Barton. Dunedin's student community was in shock following the death of a 19-year-old student. Second-year student Sophia Cristani died as partygoers hurried out of a Dundas Street party last weekend.
Police are still trying to piece together exactly what happened at a Saturday night party at Dunedin student flat The Manor, understood to have been attended by several hundred people.
In attempts to leave, a number of people have been injured, two seriously, and sadly one woman who passed away from her injuries. Police's role now is to help determine exactly what occurred.
The student who died was Sophia Cristani, who grew up in Wellington and was in her second year of study in Dunedin. The Otago University Students Association is offering support for all students impacted by the tragedy.
We're here to support our students. This is obviously a deeply shocking situation for our student community. Any students needing support today, we encourage them to reach out to Campus Watch, and going forward reaching out to OUSA Student Support and Student Health. We're working alongside the University and Police to primarily support the friends and family of those involved.
Inspector Gray says two other people sustained injuries at the party, and partygoers' efforts to help the woman were fantastic, and the police didn't meet any resistance at the scene. He says police told Sophia Cristani's parents of her death yesterday morning.
It's the news no parent wants to hear. They live outside of Dunedin. They've been told of their daughter's death this morning. They've been offered support by police, the University of Otago and victim support.
He told media it's too early to call the death an accident, and also too early to speculate whether charges will be laid. University of Otago Vice-Chancellor Harleen Hayne says residents at the Manor are being helped to find other lodgings.
The residents of the Dundas Street property, I think, have decided to relocate, so the university is working with them right now to find them alternative accommodation.
The University of Otago says it will consider wider concerns relating to student behaviour in the city following the young woman's death. In Dunedin, The South Today.
A wall in Dunedin's Bond Street is now graced by a new mural, adding to the more than 50 pieces of street art around the city. Last weekend saw Whanganui-based artist Simon Omerod finish his painting, depicting sea creatures taken out of their natural environment. The artwork is part of a worldwide program of murals about man's destruction of the oceans, a message he likes to subtly include in his art.
It's never always been at the forefront of my what I do in my art, but it's just something that I've kind of grown into, and which is I love doing. It's not a part of every work that I do, but yeah, it just so happens that the one in Dunedin has a little message, you know. I was invited to be a part of the Seawalls project. It's probably about 4 years ago now, the first one that they did in New Zealand. So I think it was like 20 artists from around the world. We all came together to paint murals for the ocean. You know, like raising awareness about what's going on in the oceans, ocean acidification, plastic pollution. You know, lots of different problems that are going on with the ocean. The owner of the building really loved what we do with the seawalls, protect what you love. So they kind of came up with their own little thing. We're all in this together, meaning, you know, like it's kind of our duty to start taking control and looking after of what we actually do, because this used to be the foreshore here, and now it's occupied by humans, you know, instead of fish. So my work always has that kind of playful cartoon kind of vibe, you know, like, and narrative-wise, always like there's always a little narrative in there, but it can quite often be like quite loose, which I like. I don't really want to be kind of in people's faces, and you know. So yeah, it's basically like these little characters are holding these little bowls of water, and they're taking them away. So it's like almost, you know, we've removed the water from this position, and there's that little jellyfish being taken away by balloons. You know, it's really I don't know, like tongue-in-cheek, but you know, it's like a really kind of playful way of looking at it. Yeah. But you know, at the same time, it's still a serious matter, but it's a good way as well, connecting with younger people, and you know, that's where it kind of counts at the moment. You know, like teaching young people about what's going on in the world. they're the ones who's going to change, you know.
The owner of land burnt in a scrub fire near Wanaka on Monday night suspects it could have been caused by a Freedom camper. Glendhu Station owner John McRae says it appears the fire began near a popular Freedom campers area at the start of the Diamond Lake track on Mount Aspiring Road. Fire and Emergency New Zealand say they can't confirm the cause. However, the first report is the fire originated in an older slash pile which flared back up. Police were at the scene on Wednesday but declined to comment. Glendhu Station lost 100 hectares of feed they were saving as a drought buffer for cattle in a dry summer. There are several dock signs prohibiting camping and fires within a short distance of the fire. Hundreds of people tucked into a fritter or two at the annual Whitebait Festival in Haast last weekend. The annual celebration of the humble fry comes as scientists and environmental groups raise the alarm about the future of 4 of the 5 whitebait species.
Queuing up for tasty whitebait fritters, which some believe all New Zealanders have the right to eat. Hundreds turned out for Saturday's annual Whitebait Festival in Haast, undaunted by the calls across the country to halt the fishery to allow stocks to recover. Of the 5 species of whitebait, 4 are now classed as threatened, but Haast resident Eamon Johnston is keen to point out the most commonly caught species is not under threat.
Whitebait are the young of 5 species of glaxu. You've got the names of them are the short-jawed kokopoo, the banded kokopoo, the giant kokopoo, the kauri, which is the climbing one, and then last the inanga. The inanga is the common, popular, numerous, not even the people that think not everyone thinks they're endangered. Not even the people that think whitebait are endangered think that the inanga is endangered.
Justine Mills has been netting for West Coast whitebait on the nearby Okuru River for 29 years and is now joined by her daughter Madison.
A good kilo in there, at least a kilo.
Whoa. Well, it's just really fun watching the whitebait go in, to the net, and it's just really cool.
Mills takes a dim view of those who say whitebait are threatened.
Oh, what a load of rot. Look, you can have, depends on the, if they have a dry season here, all the spawning bait die up in the swamps. But if you've got floods, it washes out the sea and it comes back in the same river.
Others setting nets onto Okuru River include Joe and George Wallace, who have been keen whitebaiters for 50 years. They believe the fishery could now be coming under stress, with more and more people wanting to catch the little fish.
You've had up to 20 kilos in one lift.
Yes, but there wasn't so many people on the river, and there wasn't so many people scooping. There simply wasn't so many people around.
The Department of Conservation is currently gathering all divergent public points of view on the state of the fishery around the country, with the aim of producing a management plan. In Haast, for the South Today.
A Wellington musician is undertaking a tour of New Zealand with a bit of a difference. Primary teacher Gillian Henderwood was in Dunedin recently to play a song at the Dunedin Botanic Gardens as part of her quest to perform on 50 band rotundas in a year.
Many people set themselves goals ahead of significant milestones. For Wellington-based primary school teacher and musician Gillian Henderwood, it's playing music on 50 band rotundas before she turns 50.
So, leading up to my 50th birthday, friends were saying, what do you want to do for your birthday? And in the middle of the night one night, I suddenly realised what it was I wanted to do, which was to play on 50 band rotundas around New Zealand. And I was so excited I couldn't sleep.
Despite her obvious excitement, she chose to keep the idea to herself, which she says was tough, but she was scared someone more famous might do it first.
Dave Dobbin or someone's going to get hold of it and do it before me. So I sort of knew for 6 months before my birthday that this is what I wanted to do.
She's been travelling during school holiday periods to reach the goal and returns to Wellington this week. At times she's living on a prayer, but says she's halfway there.
I have now done 25. I've just been up in Rotorua, where in the government gardens there. And so yeah, I'm halfway.
As she's completed around half of her rotunda tour of duty, Henderwood is a good judge of what makes a good rotunda and says Dunedin's stacks up well.
Well, this is pretty grand. This is, yeah, it probably fits the American term, which is bandstand, a little bit better because of its rectangular shape. But my professor friend tells me this is definitely fits the definition of a rotunda.
She's had a couple of disappointments along the way in Cromwell and Ashburton. She was led to believe both towns had rotunda, but in terms of Cromwell it was a case of rotunda down under, while Ashburton's was pulled down 20 years ago. In Dunedin, the South Today.
After the break on this edition of Southern Newsweek, one of Dunedin's departing city councillors chose to take the long way to her last DCC meeting. And youngsters in Central Otago have the opportunity to learn about mindfulness these school holidays. So see you after the break. Welcome back. It's probably not for the faint-hearted, but a departing Dunedin City Councillor chose to take the long way to get to her last council meeting. It took Kate Wilson 2 days, but she cycled from her Middlemarch home to the city to celebrate her final DCC meeting.
On your bike. Departing Dunedin City Councillor Kate Wilson took the long road to her final council meeting today.
I'm biking to my last meeting, and it's sad leaving council, but I wanted to stop and enjoy it and think about it, really.
Wilson says she's learnt a lot after 12 years on council, including about transportation issues around cycling.
That in 2007, I think, one of the first people to come to an annual plan and be heard was Nikki Bolt, and asking that she could ride from Port Chalmers safely to her place of work. And I think I was a complete prat and challenged her as to why she just didn't move to a place that was safer to cycle from, which wasn't, again, one of my finest hours of being on the council.
She chose to break up the 116-kilometre journey, staying last night in Karatane. Despite high hopes for good weather on the second leg of her journey, she's instead had to battle rain on her way into Dunedin.
Bike to Waitete over the Coast Road and then up over the Sullivan's Dam and down into the Leith Valley is the plan. I'm hoping the weather's as good tomorrow, it may not be.
Wilson says she leaves the council in good heart and is pleased to be part of the group determined to leave the city in a livable and connected state.
It's sad to leave a really great team. I think we've done, I think Dunedin's in a really good space. I'm really proud of what we as collectively have done together, and it's been an amazing journey. Being a real privilege serving the city. It's a fantastic place.
And while she's stepping down from the Dunedin City Council, Kate Wilson is standing for a seat on the Otago Regional Council. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Protests were held across the country on Monday as the environmental activist Extinction Rebellion stepped up their call for action. In Invercargill, environmentalists took to the streets to raise awareness at the inaction from the government and big business on climate change.
Protesters took to the streets of Invercargill yesterday, concerned about apparent inaction by governments on climate change.
I'm here as part of the Extinction Rebellion protest. It's worldwide, and basically we're just saying it's time to act. There is no more time. The climate is changing. We've seen it down here already. There's fish farms being closed because the water temperature is rising. We just can't continue the way we're going with burning fuels and letting that carbon into the atmosphere. It's got to stop now.
We're protesting because the world is being destroyed, and the fossil fuel industries are a major part of that, and we're making a stand saying end to fossil fuels.
Creative devices such as a boat loaded with sandbags helped illustrate their concerns about the town centre being inundated by rising sea levels.
Here in Invercargill, it's the threat of sea level rise, and that's our focus today with our boat.
We will soon have water here. Invercargill is a low-lying place, so it's only a matter of time before the sea levels get up to here. So that's kind of like, yeah, what we're trying to say is we're going to need more sandbags in the future, but you know, at least we're prepared, we're getting started.
The protest finished up at the ANZ Bank on Kelvin Street, where they demonstrated against the bank's support of the fossil fuel industry.
The ANZ Bank is a major funder of the fossil fuel industry,
It's not against the staff or anyone here, but the management need to take notice and listen to us, because it's time to make a change.
Hoping that we get into gear and do action, not just keep talking. Kia ora koutou. E iti he punamu. It may be small, but it's very precious.
We've got 8.5 years to totally go to carbon zero, or we're on a path of dire consequences for the whole world. There's going to be the continued worst storms, worst droughts. There's going to be mass migration, because there's going to be parts of the world that are going to be too hot to sustain life.
In Invercargill, the South Today.
A series of workshops offered by the Cromwell Youth Trust is aiming to help pupils find more balance and reduce stress. 4 workshops have been designed to help young people cope with stress from exams and other situations they may encounter in the future.
Cromwell school pupils taking part in an introductory class on meditation techniques to avoid stress, especially around exam time. The Cromwell Youth Trust is offering to help young people develop new skills focused on positive mental health through 4 workshops covering fitness, nutrition, yoga and meditation.
This program, in collaboration with local businesses and organisations, is a chance to have them use those tools and strategies that they learn in their study and during the practical exam, and then during the future as well.
Monica Peniel of Central Fitness Cromwell says even simple changes to our exercise regime and diet can have a dramatic improvement on our mental health.
We know exactly how we feel after a workout, and after we start eating better, we know that it's improving our mental health hugely.
Emily Fendel of the Central Yoga Studio agrees, saying remembering to do even simple stretches during the day is very important.
Just take a quick stretch, just open up the chest, that sort of thing. Just things that, it's common sense, but in the heat of exams and the stress takes over, you don't sort of think about doing these things.
Angela Connell of the Alexandra Flow Space Wellness Centre is keen to share with the pupils her views on improving mental well-being.
We're going to be covering some mindfulness strategies for reducing stress and anxiety, mindfulness strategies that will help focus, memory and concentration, and body awareness strategies that will help kind of catch stress before it escalates.
Year 13 pupil Maya Scott says her introductory class saw her learning techniques she had not previously considered.
It was great. I wasn't expecting the mindfulness bit to be so effective. Personally, I haven't been a person who's really been into that, but now I am. So it's good to try things and to learn about different opportunities and different sort of ways to deal with things, which is
The workshops are scheduled for the last week of October, with pupils able to make bookings through the Cromwell Youth Trust. In Cromwell, the South Today.
Hundreds of Southlanders rallied together for a 12-hour netball-a-thon at the ILT Stadium Southland last weekend. The marathon series of games was a fundraiser for a promising young netballer who's recovering from surgery for idiopathic scoliosis.
Many teams playing hours of continuous netball matches to raise funds for an up-and-coming player who's facing major trials at a young age.
We're supporting a Southland family from Bluff, Danae Lowe McPherson. So she's in our Girls High 8A netball team. She's been playing year 7s, year 8s come through and has been diagnosed with severe scoliosis. So she's over in Barcelona at the moment, recovering from her operation.
The teams are taking part in a non-stop rally from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. to raise money for 13-year-old Danae Lowe McPherson. The PSA Danae's family are watching the event from overseas.
We've had several messages from the family today. They've been live streaming us and she's doing really well. She's doing amazing recovery.
The Bluff-based youngster is in Spain as she recovers from a life-altering operation for idiopathic scoliosis. The condition is characterised by abnormal curvature of the spine. Organisers say locals came out to support the cause.
We've been so well supported, we've been so lucky, it's been easy getting teams, everyone's coming to support the public court, the corporates have been amazing.
There's been so much banter. It's been amazing fun.
So much fun.
Dane's condition was too severe to be treated in New Zealand, and the family's search for specialist care took them to Spain and $86,000 life-changing surgery. Even some netball stars came out to play at the weekend's event, including the Southern Steel's Kendall McMinn.
So because it is a community event, is really big for me, and especially because she's young and she plays netball, so I like to get out here and support, and especially because it's in the community.
Organisers say ILT Stadium Southland didn't charge them for the courts, and they're grateful to many other sponsors, including Netball South, Invercargill Young Professionals and Made to Move. In Invercargill, the South Today.
Still to come on this edition of Southern News Week, a group of Dunedin youngsters have helped beautify a motorway underpass, and 2 sharing world champions are given a hero's welcome in Geraldine. So see you after the break. Thanks for staying with us. A group of Dunedin school children recently spent 3 days painting a mural in the pedestrian tunnel which links Green Island with Abbotsford. Community worker Amanda Reid says about 20 volunteers used paintbrushes to replace an earlier mural which had been ruined by vandalism.
This is the Runciman Street tunnel which links our Green Island community to our Abbotsford community, and it had a beautiful mural in it that was great from Keep Dunedin Beautiful. But the anti-graffiti paint had worn off after 10 years, so then progressively it got really bad graffiti last year. It's a really popular tunnel, so the community asked for it to be fixed up. So as a result, we've had a local painter who came and water blasted and prepped the walls. We've hired Jonathan Waters, who's an artist, local artist and teacher, and he's been working with local intermediate kids from various schools in our area to design a mural for the tunnel. Yeah, and then we're going to be anti-graffiti coating it again, so it should last a good 5 to 10 years. Yeah, brighten up the tunnel again. And we're hoping to have an opening that anyone can come to on the 18th of October, 3:30.
A group of top chefs are set to do battle as part of next month's Home and Living show at Forsyth Bar Stadium. The trio work at restaurants like Moiety, Emerson's, the Prohibition Group and Glenfarclas Gardens. But this year there's set to be a wild card to keep them on their toes.
Sharpening their skills ahead of the Farm to Fork competition next month. Glenfarclas Gardens executive chef and 2018 challenge winner Hans Barretter is set to defend his title against a host of other top southern chefs. And he's relishing the chance to compete again.
It feels good, yeah, happy to do it again.
What do you think edged you over and got you the win last year?
Taking it not too serious, just going in pretty relaxed and kind of enjoy working with the apprentice from Polytech, and pretty much just doing what I love and playing it simple.
He's due to be up against Vault 21 and Prohibition Group executive chef Greg Piner, Moiety owner and chef Sam Gasson, Emerson's head chef Andy Aitken, Pablo Takini from Cucina in Oamaru, and a wildcard home cook. It's the wildcard which is intriguing some of the Dunedin chefs.
It will be interesting. A lot of home cooks, they work differently, and they see things differently, so that might be a big advantage for them.
I think it's great. I really do. I think there's probably some very serious, very good home cooks out there that would give any chef a run for his money.
Oh, the wild card could be a curveball, because there's some actually really good home cooks around. So yeah, Sam was saying before, it could. Yeah, we just need to be on our game. So it puts the pressure on us again as well. So no, it's good.
3 of the Dunedin-based chefs spoken with recently say there'll be a degree of good-natured banter while they're all on stage. The challenge is set to be held on November the 3rd as part of the 2019 Home and Living show at Forsyth Bar Stadium. In Dunedin, the South Today.
It was a gala welcome in Geraldine for 2 local shearers who won individual and team titles for blade shearing at the recent World Championships. Alan Oldfielder of Geraldine and teammate Tony Dobbs of Fairley are the first non-South Africans to win blade shearing champs since 1994.
shearing champ Alan Oldfield demonstrating the fine art of blade shearing to an appreciative audience in Geraldine on Sunday. Oldfield and teammate Tony Dobbs received a gala welcome in recognition of team and individual titles they won at Le Dora in France earlier this year. Oldfield says they faced sweltering conditions during their time competing at the World Blade Shearing Champs.
We had some pretty tough conditions. It was 38 degrees one day, I think, when we were over there, and the sheep weren't ideal, but we persevered through. And
he says the South Africans were the ones to beat, having taken away every win since 1994.
They've won every year up until this year, in both the individual and the teams. So it was pretty incredible for me and Tony to take both the teams and the individual title. For the first time that someone from outside of South Africa for, what's that, 25 years.
Tony Dobbs, who won a world title 31 years ago, says he appreciated having a younger teammate to keep up the pace.
As far as the championships are concerned, I think it's having someone young in the pen beside you just keeps you driving you along, and someone like that with the enthusiasm and vigour just keeps you on your edge and makes you put that extra bit of effort in, because when it gets down to an event like that, you can't just give 100%, it's got to be more than that, otherwise you ain't going to come away with the result you'd like.
The next World Championships are to be held in 2 years' time in Scotland, and Oldfield is keen to travel over and defend his individual title. In Geraldine, the South Today.
And that wraps up this edition of Southern Newsweek. For the latest news from the Southern region, head online to odt.co.nz and follow Channel 39 on Facebook and YouTube. Have a great evening and week. Ka kite anō.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.